All right, so we're back. Say it in four. Tamisha Blue. I'm Terrence Edwards, Kevin Jones, Kevin Brown, Roderick Smith. We have an update for you guys. We're talking about Karmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf, the tent, the warning, the stab. Roderick, what's the update?
So, two big updates is that the first update I wanted to start with is they had to move the family to an undisclosed location. That's a big deal because, of course, they're taking out the comfort of their home. They have already been getting a lot of threats, and so they have now removed that family from the home. So that's definitely a big update. The second update is that there have been rallies. At those rallies, I believe the last rally that they had it was at the stadium where the stabbing took place. And there was also a fight that broke out and two people were actually arrested. And so those are two things. I also wanted to mention in those two updates, what I wanted to mention in that second update was, and I actually took notes on it, but some of the flyers said. And so I'll quickly just go over some of the flyers. One of the flyers says, protect white Americans, justice for Austin. The second one said, stop black violence on white Americans. And so I wanted to highlight those two things because I think they're important of what's going on. So those are two major updates.
I know that they had a press conference also with where his mother spoke.
Yep.
Was his lawyer also present?
The young man's father actually showed up and had to be escorted off of the premises.
Okay. Kevin, you was gonna say something?
I mean, did he have to be escorted off? He didn't have to be. Was it the right thing to do to show up there? No. Mm-hmm. But did they have a legitimate reason? From what I gather, and maybe you guys know something that I don't. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily. It was a public space. Yes, it's for the opposing party. I don't know. I think it was more theater than anything.
I think it could have caused some issues, though.
It could have, definitely.
Yeah, if somebody's there having a press conference about your son has passed away, they could potentially.
You know what? I'll eat my words. Let's call this de-escalation. I want to talk about the kids. Let's call this preventative measures. I'll eat my.
Well, I mean, at least he left, right? He didn't cause any problems or stuff like that. They asked him to leave, and he left.
Mm-hmm.
He was escorted out, but yeah.
I mean, maybe if it was the other way around, somebody would have caused problems and commotion and stabbings and thrown things and etc. But this guy decided to leave.
Or they wouldn't have been allowed in the building.
That too, right? So I recently also heard that they had to move out of some type of home or something like that where they're staying because of so many different threats and people knocking on the door and etc. So hopefully they're safe, because a certain group of people are not too happy with the Karmelo Anthony family.
The judge was also receiving threats. Also, the judge who ordered for his bond to be lowered from the $1 million to the $250,000.
Do you feel like that was the right thing to do, to lower it down, Tamisha?
Yes.
Why?
I'm make it more obtainable for him to be able to be at home with his mom and his daddy and his lawyer getting his case together.
Which is their legal obligation, is to make it attainable or make it, reasonable.
Yes.
Do y'all want to bring in?
Go ahead, Kevin.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, you're fine.
No, I was saying I know that we've seen a lot of comparisons between him and is it Kyle Rittenhouse trial? Like that's been that's the one comparison that I've been seeing the most. Have there been any others that have?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a few, and we're going to talk about one of them coming up shortly in the next couple of minutes.
That's what I was hesitant on. I was like,
okay, that's fine. Let's segue into another part.
But since you brought up the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, what do y'all think about this spokesperson for the family? Because he did get quite a few of the facts of that case wrong, and in fact, he's actually getting sued by Kyle Rittenhouse for how wrong he got it. So, by no means am I defending Kyle Rittenhouse. That was already litigated in court. It is what it is. Some people like it, some people don't. But what does it say about the person that they chose as a spokesperson for the family if he's talking out the side of his neck?
So this is for Rittenhouse, not Karmelo.
No, this is for Karmelo. Daniel, what's his name? Daniel Anderson?
Anderson. I think
Anderson.
Okay.
Daniel Anderson. What do
I
y'all
thought they
think
removed
about?
him from being the spokesperson.
Did they? I didn't know.
That's the young man. Is that this? He represents like second generation or the organization,
Yeah,
second
yeah,
gen or something.
yeah. They removed him.
Yeah, I believe they removed him. But another thing that we did not mention was Jake Lang, who was in the riot at the U.S. Capitol, was the one that actually organized the rally that was at the stadium, which is definitely
What?
kind of
Who was the
deal.
rally for? I don't know about it.
The rally was for Austin.
Ooh, okay. If this is the same one that I'm thinking of, did he call Austin Metcalf's father?
Now that is a good question. I'm not sure of.
Okay. I may be thinking of a different rally, or I may be thinking about the right one. But the one that I saw a video of, he called Austin Metcalf's father, and his father doubled down on the same thing he originally said at the very beginning. He was like, "You're trying to make this a race idea, or trying to make this a race thing. It's not what it is. I do not support your rally for my son. Take his photo, take our photos off of your website." So he's in direct opposition to a lot of the malintended efforts in his son's favor. And I think I'll commend him for that. To lose a son the way that you did, and you are consistently doubling down on this is not a race issue. It's just an unfortunate circumstance that and both families were affected. And that's why I scratched my head a little bit as to why they kicked him out of the presser. If that was his original take, he's doubled down on it. What was the need there other
Well,
than it kind of
But with
create?
all due respect, his father wasn't at the incident.
Hmm?
His father wasn't there when it happened, so he doesn't know.
Neither father was there.
Correct.
But they called the press conference, so it was theirs. I feel like if he wanted to be able to voice or say whatever he needed to say, he would call it.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm talking about what the father said is not a race thing. He wasn't there.
Yeah, I see other people making this a race thing and not I see other people making it a race thing and not necessarily the families. And definitely from what we've seen, not the Metcalf out there.
I think they asked. Go ahead, Rod.
I was just going to say, when in regards to race, I know, again, race comes up a lot. So people are not making things a race thing. Race is included in this because of the location, because of the people that it happened to. So race does matter because of the situation. It's not that people are making it a race thing. Race does matter in this situation because of the location, because of who's actually this happened to.
But like, why not focus on
the case?
But why not focus on the issue at hand?
Right.
Instead of like the race of it.
Okay, but what do we feel the issue is this week? Because when we first discussed this, the issue was what was Karmelo's upbringing, and was he in a single mother home, and he was living.
That was y'all issue. That wasn't my issue.
No, I'm just saying that's what people were saying. That's what and people had to come back and report. No, he grew up in a 2-parent household when going to private schools or whatever it was. Like the reports, people had to report on and fact find on all the things that they were saying about Karmelo. So it's say it again.
And you can go back and check my last video. I said if he did come from, a good household, we really should be scratching our heads as to how this happened. Right?
No, it's very true.
Yeah.
It's not confusion to me why bad things happen in life. Because things happen, like they're 17, they got into a fight, and it was a horrible outcome. And I don't want us to ever think that that's being overlooked. But it's not. These kind of things happen. Like things happen. So it's not like he's out there and he's just robbing multiple banks. Like mistakes happen. And I believe that this was something that happened. Could he have handled it better? Absolutely. Absolutely. Hands down. Should we be held responsible for the things that we do in this world? Absolutely. I think that what people are missing is that, and the reason why race always slides in is that what we're asking for is understanding and fairness. That's all we're saying.
Well, yeah, you can get the understanding, but that's not going to do anything. That's not. I mean, we talked about that during the last.
We're talking about fairness. Fairness is important.
Okay, but then understand for what? Because the premise, and I mean, once again, I hate to bring this up, the premise and the main thing is the action of what he did. And I mean, we know where I stand with this, where Kev, Tamisha, like we know what side you guys are on. We haven't heard much from Kevin Jones on this issue, so I do want to bring him in because during last episode, he didn't really, share his take. So, Kev, what's your take on this?
Kev, you have a son, right?
Kev Jones.
I do. Yep, I do. So I'll start with this. Everything in America will always come back to race. No matter how much we try to dismiss it, don't talk about it, things like that, it's always going to be looked like that because our history was built off of race. So I just wanted to say that even though I know it should not be an issue, and I look at this, self defense, there's evidence, you can kind of go either way with that. But looking at it as a human issue, which we should look at it as a human issue, won't happen. It's just not. It's not going to happen. And I want people to understand. As much as you try to fight it, it'll always come back to that race component because everything in this country is built off of race.
Kevin, I got a
So-
question for you. Who do you keep that thought? Who do you think is making this more about race? That
Blacks.
side or this side?
No,
over
blacks.
The
Mm.
public.
The public,
The public
African
overall,
Americans.
because if we're having rallies that are saying "Make America White Again" or whatever Roderick said, the sign said "Protect White America," the public is making it about race. Even with Kev Brown saying that the dad has denounced this, so he is not personally saying, I need justice for my white son." No, he just wants justice for his son. And I can understand that as a parent. I get
Me
that.
too.
But Kevin Jones just said that black people are making this more about race.
I think we always do because
We are going to.
we're going to because we want to be protected.
Why?
You want to know why? Because
What did Roderick say? We want fairness. We never
Okay, so
get fairness.
I agree. You should
That is
have
correct.
fairness, but this is how I'm trying to make it fair because I'm trying to get away from the whole race conversation. I'm trying to find just like when we previously had Kristen on. I'm trying to get to the root of the issue and the root of this conflict, right? The previous question we needed, or some of us wanted to know, was what's his upbringing, because this factors into the decision that he made leading up to this point and the decision that he made, which led to Austin Metcalf's death. But now the question I want to know is, now that we know his background, is why did you feel the need to carry a knife? Not just on one occasion, but on multiple occasions from what we know. Why do we feel that? Did I have that wrong?
I think you do.
Why do people feel the need to carry guns?
Multiple as well.
For self-protection.
Oh,
Okay. Fair game. But in
There's
high
plenty of
school,
people with
on school
license
grounds,
carry.
right? The high school that I went to, and if this is an affluent young man, I assume he goes to a pretty good high school as well. We had security guards walking around at all times. They were strapped up all the time. You could turn a corner and there was a security guard. Some people, feel some type of way about it. I didn't. It just was part of my everyday. So if his school is anything like mine was, why did he feel the need to bring or a knife to school for self-defense purposes or whatever it means? Why didn't he feel comfortable enough to go to a teacher? Why didn't he feel comfortable enough to go to security guard? If he
I brought that up, yeah.
Yeah, you did. Why did he have to take measures into his own hands when he comes from a good family and should know how to go through the proper channels to correct behavior that is aggressive towards him or hostile towards him?
17.
Can I say something?
At 17.
So this happened in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do y'all ever understand that these things always happen in these less than
Desirable.
rule? No, not even that. Like less than like they're really lax with weapon rules. Florida, Texas, these things like that. These things happen because it's so freely that people are just walking around with guns all over
to
them
stand their ground.
to stand for protection. But these are the states that this stuff is happening in. So I'm not saying all, but that has a factor to do with it. It's normal. It's normal for them to be doing that.
But what's the excuse for Philadelphia? Because Philly and Texas don't have the same laws
They
and
do
rules.
not. They do not, and that's what I'm saying. And that's my point. But people are not walking around freely with AKs on them, or like shotguns or things like that.
They're using it like they do.
No, exactly. But that's what I was just saying. Well, I think, you're right with that. It's concealed versus out in the open, right? It's a problem. Whether we look at it or not, it's a problem. It's a problem in Texas. It's a problem. It's a problem in Philly. Problem all over the place, right? With just that particular part of it. But getting back to the question at hand, from what Kevin Brown said,
And Brown, keep that question. But I know you had a question. I'm gonna come to you. But go ahead, Jones.
so the reason why we feel that race gets involved is because we've seen this happen 10 million times on the other side of, well, us being on the other side of it.
Mhm.
Even when the evidence clearly states certain things happen, it never goes that way. So that's why we are quick to jump and protect anybody that goes through anything, even if you
Tamisha.
think they did it. That's the way that we've been brought up to look at these things. People are just fed up.
Kevin Brown.
So that's why I say all race is always going to come into this. It just always is.
All right. I don't disagree that there is a need to take that history into account, right? Historically, we've been, prejudiced, we've been overly scrutinized. Great example would be during the cocaine epidemic, the 100-to-1 penalizations that you got for crack cocaine versus powder cocaine, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we have to take all that into account. And yes, we should stand tall for the people who deserve it. I would argue Karmelo Anthony's on the fence of somebody who deserves the backing of the black community, just from what I know, right? I still think, he made a terrible decision and it led to someone's death, and there should be a punishment for that. But I'm also not going to say that it's wrong for people to want to stand and make sure he gets his due diligence during the justice process. But what I want to know is, does it have to be every battle? Does it have to be every time something like this, is disfavorably affecting a black person, whether they're flat out guilty or not? Or can we collectively pick and choose the ones that we need and want to stand for, that have merit, that have like a solid ground to stand on, as opposed to just doing it because they look like us? I agree that there's a need, but there's not a need for every single case, because some people are wrong, flat out wrong.
Roderick.
I'm going to try to address all these things quickly. I want to start with every city has different things going on, right? So we know that in Chicago, it's gun violence is a big thing, right? I also want to say that when we talk about his upbringing, and Kevin Brown, this is directed towards you and your response, when we talk about his upbringing, the upbringing is not just for you to understand where his parents work and all those different things. The upbringing is also important because it also, when you understand his upbringing and some of his traumas, then we understand why he might have brought a knife or why he might have a knife on him, right? That doesn't explain why he should have done that, but it explains why he might have a knife on him, right? So that's the importance of that piece.
And to answer the question, if we know his upbringing now, why did he?
Right. So then when you speak on other things, like you just mentioned, why does that always come up in different things? So it's hard to say those things because we're talking about one issue. And when you mix 10 other issues or 10 other different cases in with this, sometimes it's hard because each case is different. And so it's not that it always has to come up. And I hear that consistently. It's not that it always has to come up. It's that it comes up, because that's what's actually happening, right? And so when we ask for fairness, we're not saying let's roll the red carpet out for him. We're not saying let's do anything special for him. We're saying everybody should be treated fairly. We're saying that everybody should get a fair bail. You get what I'm saying? Especially 17 and 16-year-olds that have had this kind of situation. We're also saying that even when you speak about his father and you actually are very understanding when you speak about his father, like I hear understanding in you when you were speaking about his father, right?
Whose father? Austin's?
Yes, when you speak about Austin's father, you were talking about him like you know him, like he's a great man, and he could be. I don't know him, right? But you had that understanding. So what we're asking is for that same understanding equally across the board. Again, we don't know what kind of father he was, right? We don't know if some of those aggressive ways that him and his twin brother may have had could have came from the dad, right? So when the dad is coming up, the dad is getting the benefit of the doubt. And that's where race comes in, right? He's the benefit of the doubt when he walked into
He's not getting
the press conference. Wait, hear me out. When he walked into the press conference, he was given the benefit of the doubt. That wasn't weird. It was
No, he wasn't. Benefit of the doubt. Benefit of the doubt in that situation would have been allowing him to stay.
No. Benefit of the doubt is him showing up at all.
Yeah, because the black parent,
he should have been showing up.
Couldn't have shown on the white parent.
And that's the thing. A black parent could not have shown up.
Hold on.
Benefit of the doubt. Who show up?
Hold on. I want to flesh this out.
Let me finish first.
Okay.
Right? A black parent could not have showed up. They could not have showed up, right? So you don't even understand it because I'm on the receiving end and hearing you out, right? And one thing that's unique and different about us is that I listen. I listen very well because I want to respond. So I'm going to listen. So what I hear in your voice consistently is understanding. What I hear in your voice consistently is fairness. And so when I'm talking to you, all I'm asking for is the same level of understanding, the same level of fairness that you're giving one side. You get what I'm saying? Because for all we know, we don't know. For all we know, Karmelo Anthony could be completely wrong. He could be all these things, right? So when you hear us talking, we're not saying he's black, he's right. That's not what we're saying. We're saying respectfulness. We're saying have fairness and understanding, right? Because again, I hear it in your voice for the dad. And again, you might not want to admit it, but if the shoe on the other foot and his parents had showed up, it would have been way bigger than the dad just being escorted out.
So part of dishing out fairness is issuing critique as well as benefit of the doubt, forgiveness, so you have to, if you're going to be fair, you have to address it on both ends, right? And fortunately for the black community, we stand together when it comes to somebody that looks like us not getting their due diligence during the justice process. But because that's the mass, and that's how most of us approach it, it's weighted one way, and it's weighted towards benefit of the doubt. So there has to be people within our community that choose to be what they perceive as fair, what I perceive as fair, and hold bad behavior accountable. Hold rich black people who are not giving back to the community, holding them to scrutiny, right? Because we need to balance that scale, and that's what part of a community is. So exactly. Thank you. I appreciate that. So to go back to the benefit of the doubt thing, who is the onus on when dishing out benefit of the doubt? Is it the intruder or the one being intruded upon?
I don't understand that terminology because that doesn't fit the situation.
Sure does. If you are intruding,
you're jumping to conclusions because why are you saying intruder?
No, let me give you a scenario. Let me give you a scenario.
Okay.
If I have my home and somebody kicks in my door, right? It's on me to either shoot this dude in his neck or take a beat, ask him what is going on here, give him the benefit of the doubt that he is not coming to kill me at this very second, and say, hey, what's going on? Do you have the wrong house? Give him a chance to explain himself.
Different situation.
It's a great parallel.
Not a good example.
So you have the intruder and the intruded upon. It's a dramatic scenario, but I can give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not shooting him in between the eyes as soon as he kicks in my door and say, hey, hold on. I think you have the wrong house. What's going on? Yada, yada, yada.
Let me help you understand a little bit better with your own example.
And we got 2 minutes before we move on to the next segment.
Okay, I was just going to mention. So the guy breaks in your house and you shoots him and he dies. But he actually is I don't know the correct law, but I think don't they foot have to be in the house or something like that? Like they have to actually be in the house.
You got to be on your premises, yeah.
On the premises or inside the house? I was told your foot they had to be inside
the house, and you can't shoot him back.
So you shot him and you killed him on the grass, right? So understanding comes in, he's already dead, but we know that you killed him because you were trying to protect your home. Understanding comes in, and the benefit of the doubt is maybe he was breaking at my house, even though he's wrong. Maybe he broke in because he was trying to feed his family. That's kind of
hold on, and that's not in your answer. Who is the onus on? Who is the one coming to that conclusion?
Coming to the conclusion of what?
What you just said, who's breaking into my house, or maybe they just needed this, maybe they just needed that. Who is the one thinking that right then and there?
Usually it will be you, right?
Exactly. It's the one being intruded upon, right? So
Right.
it's the one who's being inconvenienced. It's the one
I
that,
think you're proving our point though, Kevin, because just like I said, the parents, he was allowed on the premises of this press conference.
but he didn't get the benefit of that because they kicked him out when he didn't do anything per se.
I
What
let me
did he need to be there for?
well.
He
I was
doesn't
gonna
need to
say
be
I was
there.
gonna
I
say that.
admit
Okay,
that.
that's the
He
third
doesn't need to be there.
So really quickly, like
Yeah, you
I
can check it.
don't.
I said it at the beginning. He did not need to be there.
So I think that they kicked him out for safety, right? Just in case he would have done something because of the severity of this whole entire thing. So
Right.
I lost my son, so I might have a gun. I might want to get back at them, shoot the mother, shoot the father, somebody. So the police are like, hey, you got to get up out of here because we don't know what you might do. So I think that was the correct move by kicking him out. You don't give somebody like that in this predicament the benefit of the doubt. You just kick him out. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I do want to talk about the press conference on how the mother conducted herself and the words that she said, the demeanor, how she kind of came off. Tamisha, you're a woman. That's a woman. You're a mother. She's a mother. Do you feel like she really justified anything? Do you feel like she showed compassion? I mean, not compassion, but do you think what her words and the things that she was saying was good? Like, what do you think about the press conference?
I think she reacted the way she needed to react for the situation. I'm not in her shoes.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
I'm not her PR person.
Mhm.
That's the other thing.
Mhm.
So it's just like maybe if she had got a call from what Trayvon's mom is Sabrina Fulton,
Mhm.
and maybe if that's what she was looking out for, like someone to guide her in this. But again, those situations are different. Sabrina lost the son, so it's just I don't know. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she responded. I feel she responded the way she felt was best for the situation. And she is a mother, like you said. And maybe she
Yeah.
told other mothers that are like her that way. I don't know. How did I feel about it? I just felt like she was a mom expressing herself. Maybe I feel there's still things about the case that anger her.
Mhm.
I feel that the situation has her probably very confused. So and then you have to be on the public stage when people are making it about race.
Well, I mean, a lot of people are also saying that she's up there talking about my 13-year-old daughter is afraid to sleep in her bed and all this other stuff like that
I've
and go to
heard white
sleep,
parents
etc.
say the same thing.
Well, I get it, but the point that I'm trying to make is that now people in the comments they're saying, "Hey, she's playing the victim. They're playing the victim now." But your son did this. So if your son never stabbed this guy, his sister would not be afraid to sleep in her bed.
Okay,
That's what they're saying,
understood.
right? So now the mom's
But
playing
if the
victim.
starting happened, does that mean that you should be threatening the entire family?
Well,
And like I said, I've heard white moms stand at a podium and say the same thing.
my last question.
Wives say the same things when their husbands have done stuff. And it's, we don't feel safe in our home. And it's like, should you feel safe in your home? Your husband just shot up a 16-year-old kid. You should feel safe. He got all the guns.
My last question for Rod before we move over to a similar situation that's hitting the internet right now. Rod, you talk a lot about understanding. You talk a lot about fairness. What would fairness and understanding look like for Karmelo at this point? And
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
say that again?
I was waiting for. I didn't know you had another part of the question. I'm sorry.
Because there's a lot of people that look like him, that look like Kevin Brown, that look like me, and they're saying, hey, he's wrong. Lock him up. People on the internet with thousands and thousands of followers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about 500K or more. And they have internet YouTube shows and they're saying, hey, lock this guy up. And they're black. So that's my question for you. What would fairness and understanding at the end of the day look like for Karmelo Anthony at this point right now, what we know now?
Yeah, well, for starters, I'm never amazed by people always jump on the bandwagon of what they believe. And if we lived our life like that, we would be nowhere. That's number one. But number two, most importantly, I think that it looks like fairness. It looks like hearing all the facts and giving him a fair trial and not just making an assumption off of what the little bit of things that people know, because we all know that the real facts have not been completely, we don't know all the complete facts. So fairness looks like fairness to me. You know what I'm saying? And you mentioned something that kind of actually made me think. So go back to the beginning part of the question for me.
Yeah. I said, what would fairness and understanding look like for Karmelo Anthony at this point right now?
And again, tapping back into the fairness piece, I think that even when I hear you, just the way you just set up that question, and you mentioned that a lot of people with a lot of followers are against him, and they said that he should be arrested. You're saying that somebody should be put to jail. All you know is that they murdered someone, right? But again, you don't know what, and I'm not saying that young man deserved to get killed, but you don't know what has happened to lead up to that, right? For all we know, again, he could be all odds could be completely against him and all that good stuff, right? But we don't know that. And so to me, we're actually the fairness, you see what the issues are in hand, right? We see how his mom is criticized, but his dad came to the thing and it was like, oh, he was just coming to the thing. They should have let him stay in there. That right there, when people have conversations, they're not even being fair. So how can you give them a fair trial? Do you see what I'm saying? So fairness looks like treating everybody equally.
I don't understand how he's not being treated equally. He's going through the process of someone who killed somebody, and he has a lawyer. His parents are doing press conferences, all this stuff like that. So how is he not being treated fairly? I don't understand.
Do you think that the process that he's going through that you just mentioned, do you think that everybody's process is like that? Do you think his process will be like that if he was white? What I'm saying to you is that that's not opinion. That is actual. Those are actual factual things.
What part of this process would be different if he was white?
You said what part of the process
would be different? Aware that
everything would be different.
Murdered Trayvon.
No. Give me a specific example, because this is the understanding that I'm trying to give you. If things would be different if he was white, what would be different if he was white?
Everything would be different. His mom, nobody would ever be like his mom is trying to play the victim.
No.
You wouldn't even mention
hold on, sorry. Let me clarify. What about the justice process, the judicial process that he is currently going through? What would be different?
It would have been days before he was arrested. He would have been at home and probably had the time to get his lawyer and case started before they even arrested him.
So
correct. And we didn't even talk about
the next story we'll talk about. We'll
murdered a 16-year-old boy in cold blood, and it took a week for them to arrest him because he said he was stand your ground.
Who is this?
That was with George. George didn't go to jail.
George Zimmerman?
A week.
Okay.
Yeah. And let's talk about the media. They posting pictures of this. This young man has all kind of nice pictures. They're posting the pictures of him literally both of their faces together on the same post, on ads or whatever the case may be. And they're posting Karmelo, the worst picture they can find of him. Then they got the young man that passed away. They have him literally look like Sweet Valley High picture.
But he addressed that on the first time we talked about that.
But I'm saying
from both ends of the media, they have their own framing.
Correct, but we're talking about fairness. So I'm bringing up the examples of things that are not fair.
All right, so moot point. Both ends have their own photo disfavoring the other party. That's
okay. You're missing how important that is.
But you still haven't told me what about this.
But wait. You're missing how important that is, though. Everybody is online. So when people see that, that shapes their opinion.
Yeah, of course it does. It's called the court of public opinion, right? And so what I would argue is there's probably just as much noise coming from the right on this as there is coming from the left. I was going to make the argument earlier that you can taint the jury pool by favoring Karmelo Anthony so much in the media, but then I remembered sometimes you got to get out of your echo chamber. There's probably just as much noise going on the other side. So in that sense, another moot point, right? So again, I ask, what about the judicial process would be different?
So
innocent until proven guilty.
Let's talk about that.